The first stone hit the ground beside her feet, kicking up dust that clung to the hem of her faded dress. Elena didn't flinch. She had already learned that flinching only encouraged the crowd. Dozens of eyes watched her from the edges of the dirt road as the elders dragged her forward, their hands unyielding on her arms. Her wrists were bound, the rope biting into her skin, and she stumbled more from exhaustion than fear. She barely slept the night before, ever since the whispering began. She knew what was coming. She had seen it happen to others, the way the townspeople chose someone to blame whenever drought, sickness, or misfortune crept into their lives. Today, the blame had chosen her. She cursed her own home, one villager hissed. She brought bad luck, another murmured. 8 years married. Not a single child. The words sliced through her like blades sharpened by ignorance. She kept her gaze on the ground because looking at them meant remembering she once cared about their opinions, their smiles, their greetings in the market. Now, those same people, those she had cooked for, helped, comforted, stood watching as if she had become something less than human. The sun had barely risen, a pale gold circle climbing through the morning mist, when the elders pulled her into the town square. Someone had already set up the tall wooden post. Rough rope hung from it like a noose waiting for a neck. Elena was shoved to her knees. Dust rose around her like a shroud. She heard children whispering behind their mothers' skirts, asking what she had done. No one answered them. One of the elders spoke loudly, his voice rehearsed, hollow, performative. Elena, wife of Tomas, has brought misfortune upon this town with her barren state. She has failed her duty as a woman. He said it as if reading the weather report, not condemning a living person. As is our tradition, she will be displayed before the town to acknowledge her shame. Displayed. Like an object. Like a lesson in failure. They yanked her to her feet and tied her hands above her head. The rope scraped her wrist raw as her body hung slightly forward. Her hair, long and once cared for, now fell over her face. She didn't wipe it away. She no longer had the strength. As the crowd gathered, their whispers grew into a cruel chorus. Her husband stood among them, his eyes avoiding hers. He used to love her once, before bitterness made him seek someone to blame. Before he let the village convince him that her inability to conceive was an inconvenience, an embarrassment. For a moment, Elena tried to breathe past the lump in her throat. She told herself she was still a person. Even if no one else saw it. Then the whip cracked. It didn't hit her, but it struck the ground beside her as a warning. The sound alone was enough to steal her breath. She closed her eyes, bracing herself for what she assumed would be the rest of her day, humiliation, jeers, maybe worse. But just as the elder drew back the whip again, a deep, distant rumble echoed from beyond the square. Hoofbeats. Slow, steady, powerful. Each impact reverberated through the ground, through the air, through the hearts of those who turned to see. A horse emerged from the morning fog, massive, dark, muscles rippling under its coat. And on its back sat a man the villagers rarely saw up close. The Mountain Man. That was the only name anyone used for him. Whispers claimed he lived alone in a cabin high above the valley, a man shaped by wilderness, solitude, and storms. Some feared him. Some admired him. Most avoided him. He was said to be fierce, unpredictable, and impossible to intimidate. And now he was riding toward the square. His cloak brushed the horse's flank, covered in dust from the mountain path. His beard was thick, his shoulders broad, his presence overwhelming. When he stopped in the center of the square, the horse exhaled a cloud of warm breath that mingled with the cold morning air. He surveyed the scene. His eyes, sharp and storm-gray, took in the crowd, the whip, the trembling woman tied to the post. "What is this?" he asked, though his voice carried a warning beneath the question. The elders stiffened. The mayor stepped forward. A matter of town justice. Not yours. The mountain man's gaze slid to Elena. For the first time that day, she felt seen, not as a disgrace, but as a wounded human being. He dismounted slowly. The crowd fell silent. Even the children sensed danger looming like a thundercloud. Justice, he said. For what crime? A villager shouted, she's infertile. As if that word alone justified cruelty. Another added, she cursed her marriage, cursed the harvest. A third chimed in, she's broken. Something dark and cold flickered in the mountain man's eyes. He walked toward her, every step deliberate. Elena's breath shook as he approached. She had heard stories about him, about how he survived winters that killed others, how he fought wolves with nothing but a knife, how he lived by a code no one understood. Now, she wondered what he would make of her suffering. When he reached her, he lifted her chin gently with 2 fingers, careful not to hurt her. Her tear-streaked face tilted upward. Her lips trembled. He turned back to the crowd. You punish a woman for something no one chooses, he said. You tie her here like an animal. And you call yourselves righteous? The elder raised the whip again, this time defensively. Stay back. This is our tradition. He didn't argue. He simply pulled out a knife. The blade glinted in the sun, and the crowd gasped. Elena froze, unsure of whether this was rescue or another kind of danger. But the mountain man didn't turn toward the crowd. He sliced through the rope above her head with one swift motion. The fibers snapped instantly, and her arms fell, limp and shaking, to her sides. She would have collapsed if he hadn't stepped forward to catch her. Gasps rippled across the square. That's enough, he said, lifting her gently into his arms. The mayor sputtered. You can't take her. The mountain man turned his gaze on him, and his voice dropped to a low, deadly hush. Try and stop me. No one moved. Even the horse seemed to stand taller, as if threatening anyone who dared confront its rider. He carried Elena as though she weighed nothing, placing her carefully on the horse's saddle before mounting behind her. His arm wrapped around her waist to keep her from falling. She leaned back against him, too weak to protest, too overwhelmed to understand what was happening. With a slight tug on the reins, he guided the horse out of the square. No one dared follow. As they left the town behind, Elena felt tears slip silently down her cheeks. She whispered, barely audible, why did you save me? His voice softened. Because I know what it is to be punished for things you cannot change. Because no one deserves to bleed for someone else's fear. The mountain path was steep, winding between tall pines and moss-covered rocks. Birds called overhead. A stream gurgled nearby. The air smelled of pine resin and early frost. Slowly, the dread in Elena's chest loosened. When they reached his cabin, sturdy, warm, surrounded by a garden of wild herbs, he helped her down. For days, she barely spoke. She slept. She cried. She healed. The mountain man never asked for explanations, never demanded thanks. He cooked for her, built a fire each morning, and gathered herbs to treat the bruises left by the rope. Over time, she learned his real name, Rowan. He learned hers. Their conversations were simple at first. Weather. Trees. Food. Silence between them felt safe, not heavy. Rowan showed her how to plant seedlings in the garden, how to identify edible forest plants, how to split wood, how to breathe in the clean mountain air and let it stitch the torn pieces of her spirit. She taught him how to read poetry, the kind he had never known he liked. She laughed again, quietly at first, then fully. She sang while she cooked. She carved wooden spoons and collected river stones and found joy in the smallest things. One night, as the fire crackled between them, she whispered, "I thought I had no worth. They made me believe I was broken." Rowan shook his head. "You were never broken. You were crushed under the weight of their ignorance. But the heart grows back stronger when it learns its own value." Her eyes shone. Months passed, and word eventually reached the village that their crops had failed again, and this time, worse. Without someone to blame, they were forced to face their own flaws, their own fear, their own cruelty. Many villagers came seeking forgiveness, apologies trembling on their tongues. Elena listened to them. She shared seeds Rowan had taught her to cultivate. She taught them new methods of nurturing the soil. Not because she owed them, but because compassion is stronger than bitterness. The village healed because Elena healed. Their fields flourished because she taught them how to treat the land the way she had learned to treat herself, with patience, gentleness, and respect. Though she visited often to help, she never returned to live there. Her life was in the mountains now. Her heart belonged to the place where she rediscovered her worth, and to the man who cut her free when the world had bound her to pain. Rowan, the once feared mountain man, found warmth in her laughter. She found strength in his quiet, unwavering kindness. Together, they built a life not defined by children or lack of them, but by love in its purest form, selfless, healing, human.